Many people would argue that farming and agriculture is the backbone of the world economy. Without farmers, we would have no way of sustaining humans. Thus, we would have no way of sustaining the economy. Therefore, they are the backbone. But in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at how our nation's backbone may be struggling and how an unlikely hero can save them. Stick around because this is going to be a pretty crazy video that you will not want to miss. Is farming safe from economic collapse? For those of you who are unaware, farmers are very reliant on the economy staying in a good place. As the higher costs go, the less money they're making. Therefore, the worse off they will become, which will eventually lead to the ultimate collapse of farming. Let me explain, as I'm sure that caused some of you to start having a mini panic attack. Surely, a collapse as colossal as the one I'm referring to would not happen in a day. It would take quite some time. But as we have seen time and time again, the longevity of an empire does not guarantee its survival. In fact, the Roman Empire and the Ottoman Empire were around and ruled for much longer than America has been the greatest country in the world. So, how can America stay on top, or at least stay a first world nation? Well, for starters, it needs to start taking care of its people. And what I mean by that is making more of an effort to educate the population and ensure that they create a generation full of thinkers and doers rather than mindless drones that absorb little information only to spew it out on a test and then forget it later. America needs to raise its education quality in order to secure the mental well-being of its nation, which would hopefully raise awareness of the fact that the overall health of the country as a whole is deteriorating at an alarming rate. With the health crisis in America growing at the rate that it is now, we will see a collapse of epic proportions, and it honestly would not take too much effort to fix it. So what steps should we implement in order to deliver some relief to the American people? For starters, we need to properly educate the entire nation. Not only does every child on the planet deserve a proper education, but they deserve to learn in a fashion that best suits them so that they can be the best version of themselves, which will hopefully in turn lead to Americans making healthier choices for themselves. This will not only help out with their long-term mental and physical health, but it will ultimately aid the farmers that are working tirelessly to ensure the long-term health of our nation's economy. Because if we do not, we will undoubtedly see a collapse that will bring an end to life as we currently know it. Why, you ask? Because this is exactly what happened to the great powers of the past. For example, we've seen many empires attempt to grow a high yield of crops in a very fast period of time, using tricks to improve the output of each yield. While that works for a short period of time, it ultimately ends up killing the topsoil in which the tricks were used. In modern days, we are using pesticides and herbicides to ensure that fewer bugs are killing our crops, which therefore increases the yield. However, the more of these that are used, the less field space we have every year as topsoil begins to erode due to the extended use of these chemicals. So while it does allow farmers to have a small amount of success, it also completely derails the farmer's ability to have a sustainable crop yield, which will eventually put them out of business as they attempt to meet quotas that are straight up impossible to reach. And if the farmers go under, then they will be replaced by large farming corporations that are only concerned with the bottom line, not the health of the consumer. This will eventually lead to a nation full of people who are physically and mentally unwell, which will undoubtedly lead to the collapse of life in America as we know it. So, what is the solution? How do we deviate from the path we find ourselves on today? We need to completely change the way we think about farming. Right now, society is very short-sighted. People are constantly demanding products at the snap of a finger or the touch of a screen, which is not always possible. Unfortunately, this is leading to people and stores demanding that farmers grow and distribute their crops as fast as possible, which is forcing them to use things like herbicides, pesticides, and GMOs in order to increase the speed of the crop yield and to increase the yield itself. This unfortunately is doing two really terrible things. First off, it is causing the farmers to destroy the land in which they're farming. Every year, farmers are losing acres of topsoil due to the erosion that is being caused by the thousands of pounds of chemicals that are being sprayed on it or pumped into it, which may be beneficial for one season but completely unsustainable as it eventually leads to the lands being unusable. This eventually leads to a lack of fertile soil, which will eventually lead to the downfall of farming and would lead to the collapse of the nation. Secondly, it is causing farmers to use methods such as tilling or soil extraction in order to produce food at a faster rate due to high demand. This is ultimately once again destroying the topsoil, which will degrade the overall farmland and lead to the complete collapse of our nation. Farmers are forced to meet the impossibly high demand, which makes them destroy the land and in turn destroy the integrity of the natural foods they produce. The GMOs added to ensure that crops grow as big as possible and as fast as possible, along with the harmful chemicals, are damaging our food integrity, thus making us as a population unhealthier. Moreover, people are going to purchase the quick and convenient option over the properly grown and healthier option every time, meaning that all natural foods will eventually be thrown to the wayside if they're not made readily available. This means that we must change, but how do we do it? And what do we change? We need to start changing our demands so farmers can change their practices. As we already mentioned, modern farming techniques are destroying the land, which will in turn destroy us if we do not do something about it. So we need to give our farmers time to implement real change so that we can go back to eating healthier and our farmers can go back to sustainable farming. These techniques would include no-till farming, as till farming exposes the soil underneath the topsoil, which essentially robs it of all its nutrients and of all the organisms that live in that soil as the weather causes them to die off. For example, worms, microscopic insects, and other nutrients cannot survive the direct sun, heavy rain, or snow. A tiller really only serves to kill soil in the long term. Additionally, the chemicals needed to grow food bigger and faster make them unhealthy, as well as destroy the soil, making the ground infertile, effectively destroying farmers. If we transition to a slower but more sustainable method of farming, we would be able to keep the American people healthy and happy, which would keep the economy stable. This would allow for America to continue to thrive instead of collapsing like other great world powers, such as the Roman Empire or the Ottoman Empire. But farmers take that kind of risk? How easy would it be to economically just to switch up the way that the farmers do their jobs? Bitcoin is the answer to sustainable farming. I'm sure that most people would not link farming and Bitcoin as commonly as I'm about to, but I believe that Bitcoin is the future of sustainable farming. Farmers are going to need some sort of backup plan to ensure that they can stay afloat while they transition from tilling and chemical farming to no-till and chemical-free farming. So instead of forcing them to rely on bonds or other types of risky transactions, we should be encouraging farmers to invest in cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin. Bitcoin has an approximate 200% compound annual growth rate as of this recording, which makes it much safer and more reliable than another type of bond. However, with the economy not doing so hot thanks to the pandemic, having a backup plan that does not necessarily rely on the global economy may be an amazing asset for farmers, especially if they need some money to fall back on in order to keep their farms afloat while transitioning to a safer and more sustainable method of farming. It should be obvious now that if we want our people to be fed proper foods by good, hardworking farmers, we need them to have access to Bitcoin so that they can begin to change their methods in order to ensure our long-term survival. That's all we have for you guys today on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. What do you think about the current state of farming and agriculture? Do you agree that we need to change the way modern farmers operate? Do you think Bitcoin is the future of sustainable farming? Let us know what you have to say in the comment section below. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to leave a like on the video and to subscribe to the channel with the notifications turned on so you never miss a single upload from us here at the channel. Thank you all once again, and we'll see you all in the next video.